Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Leeds Lens for a very special episode today. For the first time on the channel, actually, we've got an opposition preview, and we've actually got a very special guest. We've got Paul on from the Redmen TV. Before we get into the football, Paul, how are you on a personal level? How are you getting on?
Yeah, fine. I mean, the football is the personal level, right? As I always say, you could be you could literally live the best life on earth, but if your football team isn't winning every single game of football, there will always be something left inside. You're thinking, "Oh, I could maybe be a bit happier." So yeah, all is well, apart from Liverpool related, which I'm sure we'll come on to.
Yeah, no, it's funny. We'd obviously lost four on the trop going into yesterday. We finally managed to get a win over the line against Chelsea, of course.
Amateur stuff, that mate. Amateur stuff. Not that's just a blip.
Well, exactly. When we've switched style back to a three at the back, and it seems to be working really well at the moment for us. But I want to get into Liverpool because obviously this is what we are on for. Fundamentally, to start with, can you have a brief overview of like what's actually going on at Liverpool? Because I think that's what my fans will sort of be interested to know.
Yeah, unfortunately, there is no brief overview of it. It is a deep rooted long term. Look, we've been doing weeks and weeks and months and kind of thing and talking about this thing. And I think it's fundamentally, obviously, what we've got to remember is obviously the passing of Diogo Jota in the summer is a huge thing. It has a huge impact on the squad, ongoing as well. Anyone who watched Scotland getting qualification for the World Cup and saw Andy Robertson being interviewed on the pitch a full time was talking about how even in the build-up in the afternoon of that, he was a mess in his hotel room. And that's Andy Robertson, I think most people would recognise as being quite a seasoned campaigner, seasoned pro, one of the leaders in the dressing room, one of the older members of the squad as well. And if he's the kind of person who's struggling with that stuff, then probably gives you a fair indication of where a number of them are at. So there's that, and obviously therefore there's a bit of a knock-on impact to Liverpool's pre-season and then the transfer market and all those kind of things. And we're in a bit of a perfect storm of maybe the squad having psychological issues, the balance of the team not being quite right in terms of the players brought in, trying to find a system that suits the players that they do have, maybe a team that's built around Mohamed Salah that maybe shouldn't be built around Mohamed Salah anymore, which is obviously a huge change because all of Liverpool's success has come with him being the best player in the team. Look, I mean, that is the shortest pathway to describing it, but it doesn't even come close to capturing the full depth.
Yeah, and then I've been looking at Liverpool before this, and I've been looking at sort of how you've tried to adapt to sort of fix what's been going on a bit. And I've seen you've sort of gone to a more, which I think you've seen like Jamie Carragher talk about, Gary Neville talk about, it's gone to a more sort of physical approach in the last few games. Is that a fair assessment in terms of personnel that have come in?
Yeah, well, actually, I would suggest it's probably more just the absence of Mo Salah. And we say physical, when you say physical, I can hear like the championship in you that really wants to physical blood boiling and all that kind of stuff. No, I think what has happened in the last couple of games is Slot has tried to move a bit more towards the team that I think he's tried to buy, was trying to bring in really. So, Florian Wirtz and Alexander Isak, we wrote the British transfer record twice in the summer, and prior to the game in midweek, they played a grand total of five. They've been on the pitch 5 times together in the Premier League, and across all competitions, I think it's another 3 in the Champions League, which is 8. But actually, in terms of 90 minutes, they've only played 4.1 90 minutes together. So I think that's a lot of it is getting Wirtz and Isak on the pitch and hoping that your big money signings can kind of make it happen, as opposed to relying on the lads who were there the previous season.
Yeah, no, I was breaking that more in terms of like when I looked at sort of Joe Gomez going back to right back and stuff like that. I wondered if that was a bit more sort of just a bit of an aerial standpoint.
Yeah, but actually, theoretically, because Joe Gomez is a centre half by trade, but he's done a lot of time at right back in his career and left back as well. He's quite a versatile guy. He's not a brute, I think is the way to put it. He would naturally add more stability defensively because in those situations it's just his bread and butter. But actually, it's not as though he's gone to playing at like a 3 at the back, So yes, having someone like Gomez who can do the defensive stuff, but actually he's played like quite a modern right back in that, he's playing quite high. He's looking to get forward and supplement the attack as well. So yes, but also no at the same time.
Yeah, and the other thing that I wanted to sort of get your opinion on is that I watched your Forest game. I haven't watched you since, I don't think, but I watched your Forest game. And I thought in that game you came out like fantastically well. And I was thinking sort of where's this sort of big crumble that everyone's talking about? And then sort of Forest scored and the game just completely sort of changed. And then obviously in the West Ham game, it went differently because obviously he scored first. But are you looking at this game going, if we can get the first goal in this game and get a grip on it, then potentially we should start to then manoeuvre it into our favour like you almost saw at West Ham?
Yeah, well, West Ham was a good example of a bit more control across the full 90, whereas the Forest game and then the PSV Eindhoven game that followed in the Champions League, Liverpool started brilliantly, but you're right, when they faced adversity, they really didn't handle it very well. The one encouraging thing from the Sunderland game, well, there's a few encouraging things, but the biggest one really is that they did concede again, first again, but that gave them a little bit of a kick up the arse, and they actually, whereas in the Forest games and PSV games, they totally and utterly capitulated. That wasn't the case against Sunderland, and obviously they dragged themselves back into it and grab a draw, which in it is not enough, but where we're at, we've got quite a low bar at the moment. So a draw is absolutely better than a defeat. We've got loads of them. So it was our first draw of the season. So that was a nice little collector's item.
Yeah, because that's been a thing for you this season. I think I saw someone saying this, that Liverpool actually hadn't drawn a game all season, obviously going into the game. And a few games I think you've lost late on, like the Palace game when it all sort of started. And you think actually getting out of Selhurst Park with a point actually might have changed the way it had gone, really.
Yeah, and Stamford Bridge as well. We conceded late losing goals in both of those games, and the form hasn't really dramatically increased since. We had a win against Villa and beat Real Madrid in the Champions League, and we beat Frankfurt in amongst it all. Which has been okay, but yeah, actually, weirdly, an extra couple of points, and even then, therefore, taking a couple of points off of Chelsea and Crystal Palace actually might have benefited Liverpool's league position quite a bit. But yeah, they've gone from being a team that never loses to a team that just doesn't know how to draw anymore. So yeah, it was a small win, whereas was not being a win.
Well, it's sometimes a situation where if you can't win it, don't lose it. And I think obviously you've actually a few times, as you mentioned, lost games late on. Whereas obviously, as I said, Sunderland, although they did have a near miss, didn't they, right at the end? I think, was it Robertson that cleared off, or someone cleared off the line? Chiesa cleared off the line. But yeah, Isidore went through, didn't he? So looking at going into this game then, obviously I think from a Leeds standpoint, we've gone down a really physical route. That's what we sort of recruited for in the summer, because I think sometimes you can't match the sort of quality of the Premier League. So it's where can you get a little advantage? And we've sort of bought essentially a load of big lads in terms of like Mechas and DCLs and stuff. And we've tried to start, in the last few weeks, really tried to start bullying teams in terms of an aerial dominance. Do you look at that as a bit of a weakness for Liverpool? Or am I sort of looking from outside looking in? Is that somewhere that Leeds can get at Liverpool?
I think if Leeds have it's so weird, because there was a point where we'd say, well, the teams that have a go at Liverpool will be all right against. It's the teams that park the bus that we've got a big struggle with. But actually, there's now this new sort of hybrid, and it's an evolution of the type of teams that Liverpool tend to struggle against and have done for a while. Is the very archetypal sort of 6th to 14th in the Premier League teams that who defend resolutely but have got loads of pace on the counter attack. And what they've added to that now is set pieces, so teams that are really good with the long throw-ins and do some aerial bombardment, miss out the midfield, etc. They've been the teams that we've really had a hard time with this year. So yeah, if Leeds get in Liverpool's faces, that's certainly, you can't go wrong. Ultimately, that's a good way to play against every team. Is to actually really sort of throw the kitchen sink at it. Whether it's enough to undo Liverpool, I honestly really don't know. It feels like I was listening to Farke talk after the game the other night, and he was kind of talking about having to be flexible and having to match up with this opposition a little bit more, do some more mirroring to try and undo what your opponent's doing. So it'll be interesting to see whether he goes with that sort of approach again. Is he going to go man for man on Liverpool? Because that's the thing that we've had a little bit of a struggle with. But it's also the kind of situation where Wirtz might be able to, it might benefit someone like Florian Wirtz if he does that. So honestly, yeah, there's a million ways to beat Liverpool at the moment. The trick is to basically score with your first shot. So literally just shoot from anywhere, because the way it's going right now, everything is going in against us, even when it shouldn't. So yeah, the shortest pathway to success against Liverpool is just to shoot.
Yeah, no, it's funny actually. I saw the stats yesterday when I came out of it, and again, like I think you had about 1.5 xg, they had 0.41, and you're thinking like on another day they just do like, and you're thinking about over 20 shots. On another day, one of them even deflects and ends up in the back of the net, of course.
Yeah, and look, Liverpool don't take enough good shots is their issue on the day, but like. The goal that Sunderland score it's outside the box and it takes deflection and goes in, and it's just time and time. It's a 0.02 xg chance, for those who were asked, and that's to say 2 in 100 of them are supposed to go in, but it feels like they go in every week at this point. So yeah, sure,
Yeah, it's one of them things when you're struggling. It feels, as I said, every shot that people take is just flying in the back of the net, and then like probably last season that ends up going out for a corner rather than flying into the side of the goal. Yeah. But I guess that's one of them things. No, what I wanted to talk a bit about and mention a bit about is that I think fundamentally with this game, the way I sort of see it, and I think you're probably mirroring from what you're saying, is that I think we've just got to do what we normally do. And if we make it a football match and actually play on the ground, we'll get hammered, I think, because you'll just play through us. I think Wirtz will start to pop it off. And we're just not good enough on the ball. And that's going to happen because we've just been promoted and we only spent, it sounds ridiculous, but we only actually spent 100 million, which actually to compete at this level is very tricky. So I think we've just got to just make it just the most disgusting football like we did against Chelsea, where we had 29% of the ball yesterday, loads of long balls, and just turn it the complete opposite of a football match. Do you think if you were fat, you'd go, yeah, let's just make this as just horrible as possible?
Yeah, because obviously, yeah. I mean, yeah. Why not? I mean, at this stage, it's about expectation, isn't it? And Elland Road, because it's Liverpool and because of the history between the teams, this isn't going to be the Mark Viduka game again. This isn't going to be Viduka and Kuhl and Bowyer and everyone in between. A team at the absolute peak of its football and powers. I suspect Elland Road would quite enjoy it being a bit of like a. Yeah,
loved it last night.
Yeah, a bit of a blood and thunder game of footy, and it's whether Liverpool can actually live up to that. So I think particularly because you're at home, I think that might be a really good way to kind of get Elland Road on side for that one.
And then I wanted to talk a bit about, you probably mentioned this a few times, I think you mentioned it earlier as well, but I do want to talk a bit about the Salah situation, because obviously he got dropped against West Ham, you win the game, and then last night he comes on at half time. How did he play against against Sunderland? And are you expecting him now to maybe get back into the lineup for the Leeds game?
Yeah, it's weird because I kind of thought he'd come in for the Sunderland game and then go back out for the Leeds game, if I'm being honest. But the problem we've kind of got is that we've got a few injury issues still, particularly down the right-hand side. So it's whether Salah's got it in him to do the hard yards of getting back in and tracking back and covering as fullback, because we're really going to need that. I think he's been odd. It's funny because actually I thought he played quite well in the two games prior to him being dropped. He actually started to look like he was getting more and more involved. He was a consistent threat throughout the game. The manager's made a big call on that, and I think it is ultimately because you've got to. He hasn't found a way to get Salah, Isak, Wirtz, and let's say Gakpo, for the sake of argument, all functioning in one team. So he's leaning towards, it looks like he's leaning more towards Wirtz and Isak, which makes sense because that's got to be the future of the team. But yeah, Salah was an odd one in midweek against Sunderland. He came on, he was okay. He was functional, but we literally hadn't been playing anyone in his position up to that point. We kind of vacated the right wing. So yeah, look, if Salah will play, if the manager thinks that that's a way of hurting Leeds, and it should be because he's a brilliant footballer. But yeah, at the moment we're really falling between two stools of what worked last season. We haven't got the same players. There's no Trent and there's no Jota and there's no Diaz, so it's not quite as good as it was last year when they do go back to type, and it's not quite there and clicked and ready in terms of what the next evolution is going to be. So yeah, honestly, I've got no idea. We've got Inter Milan on Tuesday in the Champions League as well, so away, and he needs to win both. So it's whether he thinks Salah is the best way to do that, because if he does, he'll play, and if he doesn't, he won't.
It's a funny thing with Salah because, as I said, I saw a lot of Liverpool fans in the last few weeks maybe calling for him to be dropped before he was dropped, and part of me is still like part of me, if you play Szoboszlai on the right hand side against Leeds, I'll sort of be like, well, that's sort of what I want, really. It's because he's still Mo Salah at the end of the day. Like, if Mo Salah at his best performance, I still have got in my head that he's going to be the one that sort of changes the game. And because he obviously, as I said, if he gets to a 9 or an 8 or a 9, that's better than probably anything Szoboszlai can do, even probably if he's playing at a 10 on terms of a right hand side position and sort of what he can offer. Obviously, I think Szoboszlai's been one of your better players than this season, but so I'm sort of in a weird way kind of hoping he doesn't play, really.
Yeah, and that's understandable, because it's like anything. People don't age or change in your memory, So people remain fixed from the last time you saw them. And Mo Salah, I mean, I still have that there's an absolute banger of a goal he scores against Leeds, I think the last time he's in the Premier League, like top corner, and so you'll have that in your memory. You'll have seen
got a hat-trick against us in that game, actually.
Well, yeah, so well, there you go. That's what I mean. Is that's more fixed in your memory than it probably is in mine, because I've watched everything that Salah's done. And look, I'm not writing him off. He's very capable of turning on and being a match winner for Liverpool in that match, and he probably will, because that's what Mo Salah tends to do. But again, Szoboszlai's been Liverpool's best player this season. So he'll be in the team anyway, I'd imagine. So it's Liverpool really need Isak and Wirtz to come to the party here. And it's whether he chooses to do that effectively or not, because again, I said they've got to go win in the San Siro on Tuesday as well. So yeah, it's a tricky little spell for the manager.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because it's like, this is the point. Like, we've sort of had a benefit in terms of obviously a lot of the top clubs playing European football naturally, whereas we've had this benefit of obviously not having that and just playing one game a week, which is a huge benefit, because the way we play, especially the way we played on Wednesday, it's so physically demanding in terms of we're playing a 5-3-2, and your fullbacks have essentially just got to go up and down because there's no one else supporting them either flank. Yeah. And obviously your midfield three, then, especially when you're only at 29% of the ball, that's just constantly left to right over and over again. So I think that's going to be the tricky thing for us in terms of, like, if I'm looking at Liverpool, I'm thinking, well, they need to keep the ball moving quickly and just get our players running again. If we are going to sit in a block sort of thing, which I think we will do, because it'd make no sense having just had two good performances that way at City in the second half, and obviously against Chelsea last night. But fundamentally, I want to get to the final part of the video today. And is it possible to get a score prediction for the game? And how do you think it's going to go?
Well, we'll definitely concede, because we always do. We'll almost certainly concede the first goal, because we always do. My hope, and it is, at this point, it shouldn't be just hope; it should be expectation, really, because Liverpool are the champions, and so they should be better than they are. I think the fact that it's been Leeds, it's been a tough week physically, for Leeds in a way that it hasn't been so far this season, as you kind of say. Hopefully, from our perspective, we've got enough on the bench to keep the team on the pitch fresh. So I reckon Liverpool will probably win it. I would go 2-1. Yeah, I think it'll be closer than it possibly should be.
Yeah, no, I sort of, a lot of people said, just play 3-5-2 or 5-3-2 and it'll just work against Liverpool again. And we've played a slog match away at Man City where we've done a lot of running. Then we've played again at Chelsea midweek, which we haven't done so far this season. And then we're playing again against Liverpool in pretty much the same sort of game. We're hoping to make it that sort of game. So I completely get your logic.
But the encouraging thing from you is, look, if you manage to get a win against Liverpool, then what a sensational sort of week, 8 days that will have been, considering the pressure the manager's been under. But even if there's nothing else, even if they don't get a point against Liverpool, as long as they put in that level of work rate that you've seen over the last couple of games, that's got to be encouraging for the rest of the season. That, if you can go toe to toe with three of the biggest teams in the country, then surely there's got to be renewed hope that that you can stay up this season.
Yeah, as I said, we're just in a weird situation. As I said, where we've just got to make it just the most ugly football ever, and we play two up front now, and like two big men. It's like something of we played Nemetra and DCL, who are both 6'2", and just like we'll try to bully your centre halves. I think potentially against Van Dijk that might be quite difficult, but I think Canate at times has been a bit off it in this season, hasn't it? So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes anyway. But as I said, I worry about this midweek stuff for us because we just haven't. Yeah. That's the benefit, and I think naturally you should be fresher than us really with the squad that you've got in comparison, because it'll be the same team again for us, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Paul, thanks for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure for you to come on the channel. And thanks everyone for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, if you could drop a like, subscribe, all that good stuff does massively help the channel. And there's also this new thing called a hype button as well, so if you could press that, that would be fantastic.